Thank you very much. Our enthusiastic and energetic chairlady of this evening's proceedings, Party PRO Laurel Lizama Leasing. Permit me, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of La HORQUETTA, to acknowledge on the head table here tonight the Member of Parliament for Aruka Maloney, and the next Member of Parliament for Aruka Maloney, Mrs. Camille Robinson Regis. I acknowledge in the audience the Member of Parliament for La HORQUETTA Talparo, and the next Member of Parliament for La HORQUETTA Talparo, Mr. Foster Cummins. And to my left, I welcome home to the battle the winner in Arima, next Member of Parliament for Arima, Her Excellency Penelope Beckers Robinson. And of course, they say the new brooms sweep very clean, and it's sweeping time. Renuka Segram Singh Suklal for St. Augustine. And we couldn't have this presentation tonight of all these PNM candidates and not present the Member of Parliament for Diego Martin West, the returning PNM candidate for Diego Martin West. Ladies and gentlemen, I always feel good about this constituency. HORQUETTA Talparo. It always reminds me of my days as deputy political leader of the People's National Movement, when this constituency was created, and I had the assignment of being the first party officer to speak to our members and supporters here in this part of the country. I love HORQUETTA Talparo. It has been said tonight that this constituency is largely made up of probably the largest housing estate and certainly the largest state-built housing program in the Caribbean. There are approximately about 25,000 people in and around this area. And in that population, there are probably about 10,000 persons that you can call young people. And one of the difficulties we have as a country is that we have not been sufficiently successful in absorbing all our young people into productive activity, especially activity that will develop them to the maximum potential. We have to acknowledge that. And many of those young people, not just here in La HORQUETTA, Talparo, but elsewhere in the country, especially those young people who grew up in urbanized areas like this, where there are limited opportunities for them to get involved in outside of where they live. Many of those young people drift off into crime and other dangerous activities. And as a result of that, they find themselves being labeled, they find the community being stereotyped, and in some cases, despised. This is not new, and it's not peculiar to Trinidad and Tobago either. It's a problem of development. Even in older countries, but cities that are much older than our country, urbanized populations have that problem of an inability to absorb their young, and many of the young go astray in the way I've just described. And I remember in 2003, being a member of a government that sought to grapple with that problem. And the problem was being grappled with in the context of the maxim that special problems need special solutions. Otherwise, you won't be able to deal with the problems because the solutions might not be what is useful for other difficulties. And I remember going to the parliament and voting in a budget. The Prime Minister then was Patrick Manning. And I voted in the budget for a special program to deal with the problem that had emerged, not emerging, that had emerged as a thorn in the side of the national community, where young African males who largely lived in urban areas or urbanized areas like La HORQUETTA, like Laventille, like Enterprise, like some parts in Carenage, those young males were developing in a way that was very troublesome for the country. And a study was done, and it was determined that the way to do is to refocus them into education, to educate themselves so they can participate properly in the national economy. That was passed in the House that I was a member. I voted for that. A few days later, after the budget was passed, with that in it, approved by the Parliament, the budget went to the Senate. And I happened to be passing through the Senate to meet Wade Mark, taking serious issue with what had been passed by the House to try to solve the problem of the unproductive and dangerously developing urban black males. That was 2003. 17 years ago. This caused a problem because I intervened in the debate and sought to defend the government's position and sought to justify that we have to have special solutions for these special problems. And for that, I was called a racist, and I was described in the worst possible way. And so furious was the attack on me as a minister of government standing to defend this initiative that the rest of my colleagues backed away from it, because the UNC was so resolutely opposed to a government intervention in treating with this problem. A child that was 3 years old then is today 20 years old. And one that was born on that day is today 17 years old. And one that was 17 years old is today 34 years old. And all of them is young people in this country. And the problem is still there and got worse. Got worse. Got worse to the point where 2 or 3 weeks ago, somebody in interacting with the police, armed and dangerous, shots were fired, people were killed. And what happened after that? A whole army of young people, these same people, turned on the nation and came into the capital city and literally had to be forcefully restrained from destroying the country. Some of them came from La HORQUETTA because the same people who opposed the program to steer them away from that came in here in La HORQUETTA and organized them to come in town to confront the government and to confront the police. And putting into their head that the police is their enemy. I want to say to all those young people tonight, the police is not your enemy. Your enemy is Wade Mark and the UNC that prevented you from being guarded away from that. And you would ask yourself, who would do a thing like that? What politicians in any country would see the country being threatened by that development and would stand in the way of resistance and then would organize them to turn like a cancer on this own country? No. Who will do that? Let me tell you who will do that. Because I have another experience to tell you. I came in here with you. Norville, you know that, right? I came in, she was in the first group that I met. We go back that far, you know. Right? And we brought Maxi Coffee to you here. Maxi Coffee didn't start off in politics. Like me, we start off somewhere else, made our contributions elsewhere, we were identified, and we were brought into the politics. Maxi was a contributor to this nation, its development, and he came into the politics. He won the seat with your support, won it handsomely. They labeled it a marginal seat. So when the PNM wins a seat by 3,000 or 4,000 votes, it's marginal. But you have never heard them say once that Sawa Laventil, Sawa Bartara is marginal, that they won by 500 votes. You would never have heard them say once that Chaguanas East, that they won by less than 1,000 votes, is marginal. But Maxi's seat, that was won by almost 4,000 votes, that marginal. And Toko Sandigrandi is marginal too. And Tobago East, that we won by 6,000 votes, that marginal too. Well, you can beat them by the margin, you can beat them on the head, you can beat them by the foot sole, and they would not just talk about marginal seat. But I tell you about them. Maxi was serving you, and he got ill. Any of us could fall sick anytime. Any of us. None of us take money and buy illness. And some of us look hale and hearty, and the next day you hear stories to make you cry. Maxi in office got sick, seriously ill. You would not believe that while he was fighting for his life, what was the behavior of the UNC? What was the behavior? First, opposing any assistance from the government. Well, I authorized the assistance and I stand guilty for that. Secondly, as he was fighting for his life, they're demanding by-election. Because as far as they were concerned, he was dead, as good as dead. As a matter of fact, on a number of occasions, they spread rumor that he was dead. And then after that, as he made his miraculous recovery, while he was making that miraculous recovery, they were threatening to go to the courthouse. Because they love courthouse, eh? I mean, for people with such criminal records, you will think they want to stay far from the courthouse. They were threatening to go to the courthouse to make argument that the constituency was not being serviced. That is how they reacted to a colleague who was fighting for his life. But when another one in Miami, running from the police, hiding from the police, they were not concerned about Princess Town not being serviced by an MP who hiding from the police. Understand? I tell you this so you can understand what we're dealing with. So up comes in that same behavior towards Maxi and the same thought that this seat is marginal. In come Pak Choi politics. All of a sudden, they know that you are needing their help here, and Jolene arrives here in La HORQUETTA Talparo, digging up all over the backyard, planted Pak Choi. And Pak Choi is the answer to the future of the little black boy that Gypsy sang about. And of course, all money that central bank don't want, that you can't carry to the bank, they're giving you that too, and telling you to vote them into office. And when they come in, they will change the money for you. That is their offering to the development of the people of La HORQUETTA. And walking around telling people they have La HORQUETTA. Tonight I want to say to all the people of La HORQUETTA, parents and children, you have nothing to do with that foolishness. You have a vote, and you use that vote sensibly and wisely to a party that first provided you with accommodation, secondly, provided you with infrastructure, thirdly, provided you with education, fourthly, provided you with support in the social program, and that leaves the country with dignity and respect. So while they are offering you Pak Choi and all the $100 bills that cannot be legal tender, tonight you heard what the candidate offered you. A library. A library. Because it is the use of education, however you use it. However you use it, it is the use of education and a desire to learn, to improve oneself that would lift the people of La Horquetta from where they put you, where they have you, where they see you, out of the pak choy bed that they brought for you. Education. Because a library in La Horquetta is not just about books, paper books to read. It's about the digital age. It's about the age of technology, and many of our young people here in La Horquetta, boys and girls, they are prime and ready to take part in that digital age of Trinidad and Tobago, which this government offers you. So you're going to get your library, sir. And we have done something already. We have done something already which you here need to know about, you here in La Horquetta. As Prime Minister, I'm the only Prime Minister who took into my office an advisor on agriculture. There is a Ministry of Agriculture with a minister, but in the Prime Minister's office there's an advisor on agriculture. And the reason for that is that I wanted to be involved from my office in the big decisions to impact seriously on our agricultural production. And you start with ideas and you convert it into action. Just north of you here in Aripo, the government operates 1,200 acres of what you know as Aripo Livestock Station. I'm sure there isn't one person or maybe two people from the whole of La Horquetta who is employed there or was employed there. But it's there. Over 1,000 acres of good land. And in repositioning agriculture in this country, we have to make it attractive to our young people and to investors. Those are the two things you have to do, because the old farmers have either died off or they are too infirm to be able to carry out the agricultural effort that the country had before. So you need young people to get involved in agriculture. You need persons with money to invest in agriculture, because government money in agriculture tends only to pay salaries for workers. But you need investment in agriculture with a picture of a profit-making enterprise which the government has made tax-free, so that private monies can really come into agriculture and do what we need to do. So the government, by proper, transparent process, has passed that farm into the hands of the private sector in what we call a public-private partnership. 15 minutes away from here. The program up there, which is going on right now, is aiming to operate a farm up there which will have over 1,000 head of cattle, which will double our milk production and significantly contribute to our meat production. That's going on right now as part of our program. Well, let me tell you what's going to go on again after that. Immediately after the election, when we win the election and I'm sworn in as Prime Minister, we will continue in that direction, and it comes to La Horquetta in this form. Somewhere in La Horquetta will be a handful of young men who would want to get involved in agriculture. We will find you and we will direct you to agricultural activity. Because we have found the lands that are available for the same way we found the 1,200 acres there, to move it from 200 cows to over 1,000. We have found the land. So when we come back to La Horquetta after the election, is to find the farmers. Whether it's 1, 2, 22, or 222, I know we'll find some young men here. And young women. And the young women who would want to make agriculture an enterprise in which they can make a living. We will find and we will give you public land, and we will assist you with housing on those public lands, and we will make farmers out of you. That's what we're doing. So you see, we're not coming to plant pak choy in the neighbor backyard and try to give you money to go and vote. Because what I want to say to you, anybody who coming to give you cash to go and vote, watch that person very carefully. That is a person who is somebody to watch. They either have a motive that is not in your interest, or they have a question to answer as to where you get all this money from. And as we do that, taking some of our young men and women into agriculture in lands in around this eastern district. And not all farmers require fertile soil to farm, you know. Modern day technology. You can farm on the most barren of lands because all you need is a substrate. You can use any material to make a substrate and you feed nutrients into it and you have a modern farm. I went to visit a farm in Orange Grove there where they're growing lettuce. High-class lettuce that go to high-class restaurants. It's grown in a container. UV lights like a disco. And lettuce growing vertical on a wall in a container. Right here in Trinidad, right there in Orange Grove. You could put on a nice white shirt and a shiny shoe and go to farm and don't get soiled. So we're going to take some of you young people into that. And there are others who may not want to get involved in agriculture because they all can't go the same direction. But I'll tell you what, we will build in this zone, in this HORQUETTA area, a youth camp. And that youth camp would be big enough to probably hold 300 or 400 students. And out of that youth camp will flow a line of people who are skilled in providing the nation, not just HORQUETTA, the nation with the skills that we require for maintenance and other kinds of activities where the country is now greatly short of. We started this in Laventille, the Success Laventille Center. That moved very slowly because in those days when we started it, marijuana was illegal. And a lot of young people from Laventille who should have gone in there were prevented from going in there because they smoked a marijuana joint. That is now behind us because we have decriminalized marijuana. So no longer is your future stymied and even destroyed because you smoke a marijuana joint. There are people who smoke marijuana and become president of the United States. But in Trinidad and Tobago, you smoke a marijuana joint, you can't get into school. So you understand where we're coming from? Instead of patchy politics, we are bringing to you a future of great promise. So when we spend government money, it will be to prepare the lands that we're going to put you on. It is to support you in your endeavors. It is also to operate a marketing business where farmers, as they produce, should not have to worry about what happens to the produce that they have made available. You go to the market 1 week and the price is 10x. You go the following week is 1x. You go the next week, you can't sell it. We have to go back into marketing to keep the farmers alive, which means we establish prices, and those established prices would be reasonable, and they would be available to the farmer to produce a lot of, because it is out of that that we'll get food security. Out of that, we will save foreign exchange. And you people in the kitchens at home and outside, change our diet, please, from salt and fat that is imported in pretty packets and go back to our traditional diet. Grow what you eat and eat what you grow, and we could never starve. Could never starve. I was very pleased the other day when I posted a bit of my backyard recreational garden at the Prime Minister's residence. There was an overwhelming reaction from people in this country saying, I want to do that too. And many persons have started it because I receive a flood of people showing off their garden to me as to what they planted and what they have and what they're giving away to their neighbors. You can do it. So when something like COVID hits us, and we discover we can't buy food because the world is saying to you, we have no food to sell. World transportation shut down. Planes not flying, ships not coming, and we facing starvation in a place with sunlight, which kills COVID. At least the sunlight gets our plants to grow. And we have in some places very good soil, and we have a lot of idle people, and that idleness, they get sucked into activity which invariably ends up in front of the police, in front of the magistrate. We are going to change that. We're going right back there, but it has to be done by an allocation by the state. And that is why, in response to the misbehavior that took place here a few weeks ago, I appointed what I would want to call a high-power team to look at this issue again. I'm going back there again. And to make recommendations for actions. And as soon as the election is over, we go straight into preparing the budget. And in that budget, we'll have an allocation of $500 million for agricultural effort, new agricultural effort. A portion of that money will be used to put some young people from HORQUETTA onto land and into agricultural enterprise, because that's what we have to do. And even as we give the farmers guaranteed prices for specific products that they will produce, even if the books of that agency show a loss, it will not be a loss to the country, because you'll be paying that money to the farmers who produce it. And you will be keeping farmers in farming, and you will be having food security. We're going back there. We're going back there. And that is what the immediate future holds for the young people of HORQUETTA and similar areas in and around the country. Because we're not only doing that here, you know. We're doing it in central Trinidad. We have a cattle producer in central Trinidad who has moved from where he was onto new lands. The cabinet approved significant acreage for that farmer to expand. There's another farmer who is expanding a serious millions of dollars into duck production. We are already self-sufficient in poultry, so we can be self-sufficient or near to it in other things. All we have to do is to provide the support that is required to people who genuinely want to change the circumstance. Because I know, like you know, there are some people in this country who have been involved in this lack of productivity for so long that they genuinely believe that they don't have to work. Get up in the morning, meet a partner, and line. And then invariably at the end of the month, at the end of the night, at the end of the day, you hear somebody get killed, usually with a firearm, and usually what they were doing, they were liming. So if you came from Mars and you come to Trinidad, your partner from Mars will tell you, when you go down to Trinidad, don't lime. Because liming sounds like a very dangerous thing. We need to get more productive activity from people who may not be able to find the avenues themselves, but if they are guided in the right way by the right programs, I have every confidence that they want to make something of it for themselves and for their families. And that is the trust that we have in our people, and we have to guide them to that place, and I will guide you to that place. You would have heard them before us talking about agriculture, when we came into government. If you're going to be a farmer planting things, you have to have planting material. What are you going to plant? You can't plant woods. They had no planting material. We set about to produce 1 million pieces of planting material, from zabuka to teak, from apamat to oranges and grapefruit plants. And we're still on that program, creating planting material. We had a disease on citrus. Very quickly, Dr. Allen was able to find the solution, where we went abroad and got new planting material and restarted and restocked our nurseries. We're not talking agriculture, you know. We're doing it. I am a registered farmer. I am a registered farmer. I sweat, I dirty my hand, I clean my sheep pen, I cut bush, I go in the forest, and I'm still the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. the pak choy politics. You all come out and vote for the PNM and vote for a bright future. And I plead guilty to a lot of things, not just that program. I plead guilty to fixing the petrotrin problem for the people of Pointe-à-Pierre and of San Fernando and of, because what has come out of the petrotrin fix is a more sound and solid future for the people of Point 14. We're going on to the Soldado field, investing more and taking more action. It takes a little time because you're fixing it. But already you're seeing the results of the fix. Heritage is already in its first year making $1.5 billion in profit as against the old petrotrin arrangement where we were losing $2 billion a year. And in that arrangement, a drunken man and a galloping horse could see that you're going in the right direction with that arrangement. And I ask you, the owners, which company do you prefer? The one that was guaranteed to lose you $2 million a year, or the one that is now making you $1.5 billion in profit? Which one do you want? So I'm guilty of that. We met the NGC almost bankrupt. We had to take action, serious action in the whole gas pricing situation, the whole gas contracting situation to bring the NGC back into some profitability because the NGC was the government's largest money owner. It's your company. Biggest money owner in the country. They bring it down to the door of bankruptcy. Come in and meet it with $15 billion in the bank. Paying dividends to the Minister of Finance, has 500 million, 400 million, but the Minister of Finance knows the money is there and he budgets to use some of it. They use out every cent. The NGC must have been the only company that the government caused to pay dividends 3 or 4 times a year. That's what they did. From 15 billion to bankruptcy. And what galls me, I see a big fat fella in a yellow shirt last night on a platform somewhere, talking about the government this and the government that and he was the Minister of Energy, But he is qualified to go on that platform. That platform, yellow fever. Yellow fever. Every time you see them, you think about the yellow fever. Dangerous and deadly. But we fixed that, so I plead guilty to that. I plead guilty. Those of you who saw the Minister of Finance talking to the country last night about our financial situation would know that one of the things we did, we reduced and almost eliminated the fuel subsidy. That fuel subsidy was your money. Government doesn't have any money. The government is just a management team that's managing your money. And what the government was doing was using your money against you. When we are paying that fuel subsidy, every Tom, Dick, and Harry in this country was burning up fuel, whether it's in the traffic jam or driving the car, everybody in a car going to town. The one thing you never thought of when you're going to move from where you are to go somewhere else is the cost of the fuel. Who in Trinidad and Tobago was going anywhere and said, but I'm not going because you can burn gas? Who? But that's how you were using your money. 2014, 2015. That subsidy, that money of yours that you were allowing to be used, $4 billion of it was used in fuel subsidy. Meaning that you can't afford to pay the subsidy, you can't afford to pay the price of the fuel, so the government was paying it for you. The government was not paying it for you. It's you who are paying it for yourself, but paying it in that way. A man buy a Benz, one buy a Range Rover, one buy a Porsche. And all of a sudden, he can't pay the price of the fuel. So he gets subsidized fuel. And then at the end of the year, in a year where you can't find enough money to buy medicine for the hospital, you would have paid $4 billion in fuel subsidy. You here in HORQUETTA, traffic to your age, to go out and to come in. You park up in the traffic, burning gas because your air condition running. That's how you're spending your money. What we have done, two things. One, we are actively removing every traffic light between Port of Spain and HORQUETTA. We have just finished the one at Curep, and I must say, I'm sure you all are pleased with that. And we have two more. There are two more on the drawing board. Immediately after the election, the contracts have to be awarded for the other two. One by Macoya, one by the airport junction, the Piaco junction, and then you're almost home. Right? So then you'll be burning less fuel then. And of course, that $4 billion that we've removed, that is money that kept you in your public service job. And of course, we're still paying a small amount of fuel because subsidy, because when the price goes above a certain level, that's when the subsidy kicks in. When the price is low, the subsidy doesn't kick in, but your revenue loss kicks in. Understand? So whenever you see the price going up and you say, the price is going up, you're burning it up in fuel in the road. So we are dealing with these kinds of problems, and I plead guilty to that. I plead guilty. But you know something? As I plead guilty to this, there are some people who don't want to plead guilty at all. I plead guilty to what I have done or what I'm doing. I want to take you, HORQUETTA, Talparo, down Future Lane. You must have gone down Memory Lane because you were here in 2015. Let's go down Future Lane. Because you see, I told you, some of them not even waiting until they get into government to engage in criminality, you know. They're coming with it into the government. As a matter of fact, it might even be a prerequisite to get selected. I have a top 10 here of the people who are vying to run Trinidad and Tobago in the next week or so, right? This is not a joke. This is serious business. There's an election here in a week. A team of people carefully selected by a leader will approach the polling station hoping to be selected over other people to get permission to run the country. Let me pick out the top 10. This is just 10 of them. One, have questions to answer about human trafficking and the expansion of prostitution in this country. That is one. Another one was summarily dismissed from a state enterprise for dishonorable conduct. That is two. Another one, he heard that a member of staff had gone to a prayer meeting to pray to God. He fired the person for having gone to that prayer meeting in this country where every creed and race is supposed to find an equal place. This morning, I wake up this morning in a mosque. I wake up 5 o'clock, and by 7 o'clock I was in a mosque, and I spent the whole prayer session with people who are worshiping Islam. You all didn't see me? This is Trinidad. I wake up in a mosque this morning. But he fired the worker for having gone to a prayer meeting. You, all of you sitting down here, had to pay towards $175,000 that to pay the worker. He going back to Parliament because he in a safe seat. Because they have safe seats, you know. We in the PNM, we don't have the luxury of safe seats. We have to earn your vote. We have to earn your support because you are the country that voted out PNM 33-3, and the only place in this country where the PNM was never voted out of office when you were unhappy with our policies and programs is Buku in Tobago and Laventil and San Fernando East. Every other part of this country, in this country at some time, when PNM supporters are dissatisfied with PNM's policies or rate of progress, they vote the PNM out of office, but them have safe seat. Them have safe seat. So a man like that, he is going back to Parliament because he has safe seat. The one who has questions to answer about bringing in whatever he bringing in for the pleasures of him and his friends and his girlfriends and boyfriends, he going to Parliament too. He in a safe seat, right? The other one that came from TSTT with a record of dishonorable discharge, he in a safe seat. Because some people in this country don't give a hoot who they put the country's business in, as long as one qualification is met. Now, the other one, number 4, while I'm pleading guilty to what I've just pled guilty to, he have warrant issues with the police looking for he. Right, number 4. Number 5, police looking for she. Legal proceedings with a name on it, the name on warrants all about in the government department. The commissioner of police and the newspaper arguing about who leaked what to who and who. Look at the stories. Number 6, when you're nice, you're nice. I want a porn star. Number 7, on a rape charge. Number 8, fighting extradition to America. Number 9, under investigation at a state enterprise for misconduct. Number 10, already tastes foreign jail and has made a name for himself. He telling people what they already know, that the UNC can't lead a cat out of a paper bag rather than lead a country. You know that? He knows that. He knows that. You know he knows that? Because the PLM turned him down. While he was campaigning for the UNC, he come to the PNM and asked for space. No, we said, not on your Nelly. We're going to meet you in the polling station. That's the kind of people. And of course, they are all led by the ringmaster. Those are the people in whose hands you are being asked to put the country in this difficult period, this dangerous period. What do you think is going to be the outcome of that? What do you think will be the outcome of that? And let me show you something. One of the people I mentioned here, the one who was dismissed from a state enterprise. This is not allegation, this is fact. The company wanted to buy something, equipment. He find a company that is not a normal regular supplier of the state enterprise. Select that company to award the contract to. The company got the money up front before the equipment was delivered. He paid the company before the equipment was delivered. Then the company could not deliver the equipment, and the company claimed not to be able to repay the money. So you lost our money. Because as I told you, it's not government money, it's your money. Now, he coming into government with that record because he have a safe seat. But that modus operandi, aren't you familiar with it? And I swear to my God that it is because of what he did at TSTT why Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bissessa selected him to come to Parliament. Because listen to what happened under her. Because this little fella, that was a $4 million caper, right? But let me tell you about a $1 billion caper that she presided over. NGC hired a contractor. The contractor was not the best contractor in the bidding process, but he got the job anyway. Same thing like the fella in TSTT. Went to the wrong contractor. The contractor didn't do the work, but got paid. It is the same thing. Tried to get the money back from the contractor. The contractor ran and left the country the day after election. Isn't that the same thing? Except that this little fella who have a safe seat who coming in, His thing is $4 million. The one under the existing leader is $1.2 billion, $1.2 billion. And that contractor got 80% of that money and had only done 40% of the work. But it's the same model. The model is find a contractor who ain't qualified for the job, give them the job, overpriced, they ain't perform, they take the money, and if the P&M doesn't come after them, they keep it. Or if the P&M comes after them, they run out the country. That is not a Nancy story. What I've just stated there to you are facts of the situation. Facts. So today, I open the paper. Every day you open the paper. Those of you who've been brought up in the Christian religion like me, you would know what an epiphany is. Right? But apparently, an epiphany took place at that party headquarters. And they've suddenly woken up to all the things that can be done when you get your hand on public money. Because before, they didn't know it. The epiphany has just occurred, so they now know what to do with public money. In a difficult time like this, when all of us know fact that the country was short of money, money tight, that is when we repaired President House, repaired the Parliament, repaired Whitehall, repaired Neil Fleur, built the Curep Overpass, built the Moruga Agro Processing Plant, finished the Brian Lara Stadium, built the Diego Martin Sports Complex. That's when we did it. Because when we had your money, that's what we did with it. They are now telling you, if given a chance again, they will know how to spend your money. So they're publishing on the papers now every day. The one they published today is something that says, let's fix the infrastructure once and for all. So in the epiphany, they realize, let's fix the infrastructure once and for all. So the things to be done, like the overpasses to be built that I mentioned a while ago, they are now saying, by public advertisement in yellow, we will fix the infrastructure once and for all. They attempted to build the Curep roundabout. It ended up in a dog and cat fight in the cabinet and in the government. Minister got fired. It was so scandalous, the contract was never consummated. They had 3 contractors threatening to sue the government on that roundabout. They tried a solution. When they got mixed up in that situation, they say, you know what? Since 3 contractors have a case against us, let us solve it by giving each contractor a piece of the contract. We're going to give one contractor the northern part going towards Curep. We're going to give the other one the piece over the road. And we're going to give the 3rd contractor the piece going down towards Federal Settlement on the south side. Well, the contractor said, okay, thank you very much, but the price for it is about 3 times the price in the bid. Even the UNC couldn't swallow that. And they never awarded the contract. When we came in, we canceled those arrangements, went back out to tender. Their award was going to be for $444 million to build that Curep overpass. We built it for $219 million. So in one project, just by having the right government and the right people in office, this country saved over $200 million. And that is why we are saying, without fear of contradiction, that the P&M is the right choice. You see, they're now as they walk out of their dream, Rip Van Winkle just got up. Let's fix the infrastructure once and for all. One of the major pieces of infrastructure in this country is the link between Trinidad and Tobago. This country is Trinidad and Tobago. And when we came into office, the 2 old boats that we had going between Trinidad and Tobago that were bought as used vessels, requiring maintenance of a very high level, got no maintenance at all because they were sleeping then. They didn't wake up then like Rip Van Winkle. They didn't have the epiphany that they should spend public money on public business. So they spent no money on the maintenance of the Express and the Spirit. The Spirit was maintained, took 9 months to fix it. And the Express was so badly run down, it could not be repaired. They didn't know what to do with public money then. We have just now bought 2 vessels to fix that piece of infrastructure. They're now putting ad in the papers with the face of all kind of questionable people. Some of them don't even know their cell phone, they see it in video. Right? Right? And telling you that they are going to fix infrastructure once and for all. Well, ladies and gentlemen, in Tobago, you people here in Talparo know what Tobago talk. Don't leave daylight to see anything and wait until night to take flambeau to go and look for it. You know the UNC, you know them well, you know them personally, you know their record, you know their behavior, you know their intention, and it's all bad. All. From any angle you view them, they have questions to answer. And you, the people of HORQUETTA, you have a responsibility to take a stand on Monday, election Monday, August 10th. You have a responsibility not to go and take a few dollars from somebody who you should call the police for. Because I'll tell you all something. If anybody gives you money with the intention of asking you for your vote, you can call the police. That is a crime. Buying somebody's vote is unlawful. Don't let anybody make you feel that whenever there's an election, you could bargain for your vote. That is the lowest of the low. And when you people get involved in that, it can only get worse. Because what you're doing is corrupting and criminalizing the country. And if they're going to thief on the way into office, what the hell do you think they'll do when they get there? What do you think? If they could be so disrespectful to you, to know that you know that the money that they're giving you is your money that they thief, what do you think they're going to do when they get there? What do you expect, a miracle? Well, I'm waiting patiently to see if you will let me down. I'm waiting patiently. I have boundless faith in this country and in you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I have confidence in you. It is that confidence that I have in you. It is that confidence that I have in you. Why, when we were faced with COVID-19 and they were jumping up and down, they always know what to do when they're out of office and coming and telling me, declare a state of emergency. I said, no way. I have faith in the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and we are going to work this out together without any state of emergency. And we're doing that. And even as today we are challenged by a few more confirmations, I ask you to stay the course. Allow your leadership to keep leading you and to use the science and the investment we made in the doctors and the nurses and the caregivers and the hospitals that we have built and the program we put in place, which in the world we rank #1 for that program. #1. And given the advice they gave us and the advice that we took from our people in the health department, I could say, no, I want no advice from those UNT advisors, none. Because every piece of advice they gave us is bad advice. Have a state of emergency. Open the bars, don't close the rum shop. They had to sell chicken. They were opposed to us closing down the bars. By now, so we gone, we could not identify ourselves. Right? You can't close down the country because people are going to lose their jobs. Don't close the border because you have people outside to come home to vote. And if anybody gets sick, no problem, give them bleach to drink. That is their package, you know. That is their package. But worse is that the epiphany that they got to fix the country when they get their hand on money, they know what the money is. They now know what the money is. The money is in the UTC. So I couldn't believe what I was hearing. An aspirant for the post of Prime Minister putting in manifesto that they're going to mobilize the idle resources at the UTC. Ladies and gentlemen, do not take this lightly. These people have done far worse. And it is possible for them to either bring pressure to bear on or put who they want in there to do what they want. Because let me tell you something. It's that campus they built down in Debe, the Debe campus, which we now use for, they're using the dorms in the COVID fight. That is a campus of the University of the West Indies. The first time we hear about that campus is when the government started to build it down there as a law school. Remember that story? It was supposed to be a law school that they were building for their constituents because most of their constituents, they say, were studying law. So instead of bringing them up to St. Augustine to go to the law school, they started to build a law school in Debe. The next thing we know, they built a full-fledged campus. And you know who found out about that? Found out about it? The University of the West Indies. By collusion between leadership in the university and the government of Trinidad and Tobago, they built a campus here that had to be ratified at UWI. Because UWI leadership at the top never took that decision to build that campus there. It was a government of Trinidad and Tobago prime ministerial decision to build a campus in her constituency with Munilal. And up to now, the university don't know what to do with it. Because when I came in as prime minister, the university came to me asking me what to do with it. I said, what you're asking me is your university. They come up with one proposal, another one. Up to now, the university does not have a clear direction as to what to do with that campus because it was built by Kamla Prasad Bisesa for her own benefit and political grandeur. That's what it is. So if you think that she wouldn't find a way to get to your money in UTC, think again. And then when I spoke about it and objected to it because it has the potential to damage the UTC, a head of a government talking that stupidness with that kind of record only could create nervousness among the owners of the money, which is you, the people. And she tried to rectify it and saying that I am wrong. And Robert Lee Hunt don't know what he's talking about, right? So she rectified. And here she rectified. She said that Rowley don't know what idle cash balance is. And she's not surprised because he's a rock man. But Lee Hunt should know what idle cash balance is in the accounts in the UTC that are not earning interest. Well, you know, I have an account in Royal Bank West Mall with a few US dollars in it, right? It has not been earning any interest now for years. So anytime any other passing by Royal Bank, go and take it. Because it's idle. It's idle. It's not being used and it's earning no interest. So whenever you go to West Mall, just go in the bank and take it and go. That is the kind of foolishness they propose as plan. Dangerous dotishness, I call that. And as for the NIB, that is easier to manipulate. Easier. Because the government appoints the board there, and the government have a big hand in there with Labour, and Labour might even think it's a good thing to let it go there. Ladies and gentlemen, we in the PNM, facing this COVID issue, and a PNM Prime Minister, early o'clock, we decided we have to have a post-COVID plan. And it wasn't only a plan by the government, because right now, as a political party, we have prepared a manifesto, and in the next 48 hours or so, it will be out. It will be a document that binds us to certain kinds of direction of management. So we did the manifesto, but we did it against the background that a national plan has been prepared called a roadmap to recovery for post-COVID. So you've got to read the two documents side by side, and there's a phase 2 to come to me in about a week or so, and then the country will have a direction, and that direction that the cabinet didn't do was done by 22 of the brightest, most experienced people in a wide cross-section that looked at our country, looked at our circumstance, and agreed to make that talent available to create an apolitical roadmap Winston Dukaran is there. Vasan Bharat agreed to be there. Some of our captains of industry are there, all bringing something to the table. So the plan that we have there, it ain't have no other plan. That is the plan by the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The other plan is the one to interfere with UTC and NIB and to start back Caroni Sugar Company. Craziness, if you ask me. And what is amazing is that there are people in this country who should know better. If the PNM had put forward that package of dotishness, they wouldn't know what to say, though. They would know what to say. But it seems as though in this country, criticism can only come forward when the PNM is the target. Let me, as PNM leader, put up anybody on a rape charge. And every woman in this country, in every organization, would know what to call me. Let me put up a PNM person who has been fired from a state enterprise for that level of fraud I just mentioned a while ago, and they would know what to call the PNM. But there are people actively running interference to protect the UNC. They have the imps all over the country to protect them in the hope that you will vote for them blindly. Well, I tell you now, you know enough, you see enough, you want no more, and come August 10th, they are not an option for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And for those of you who figure, one thing with pak choy, don't last long, It grows fast. You're going to eat it early, otherwise one or two things are going to happen to it. The leaves get eaten very quickly by moths, or it immediately flowers and becomes inedible. Pak choy, fast, eat it quick, meal done. Understood? But the PNS program is resilient and it has a future for young men and young women. And HORQUETTA is to be taken out of wherever you are, not by pak choy politics, but by the vision of the PNM under Foster Cummings. And I always say to you all, and I'm saying this without any fear of contradiction, they have promised the country in all its facets and components to Tom, Dick, and Harry. Everybody has a promise as to what they're going to get and what they're going to be. There are lawsuits in the court where people are making huge claims against the government. This government fought those lawsuits. They have gone to those people and said to them, give us some money. We're going to pay the money when we come in. Whatever you're claiming, we're going to pay it. Understand? That's what's going on. But I, as leader of this country, leader of this party, I have made no deal with any one of these people. Not one of them I've made a deal with. When you elect them, they have to wait and see what the Prime Minister wants them to do and where they're going to be located in the government of Trinidad and Tobago. They made no deal, and they can make no deal because I am not about me and myself and my enrichment. Dr. Eric Williams governed this country for a very long time. I don't know where his house is. I heard he had a property in Goodwood Park. I don't know. I just heard that. But Dr. Williams never had anything that anybody could ask him where they get that from. A.N.R. Robinson came in as Prime Minister, came with all his houses and left with what he came with. George Chambers had his house in Santa Margarita with the birdcage, came in with the birdcage, and he left with the birdcage. Patrick Manning had his house in Union, came in with a house, served as Prime Minister twice, got elected many times, came back, go back to Union Park where he lived, or wherever he lived in San Fernando. I came into government on the same Prime Minister salary. I came with a house in Goodwood Park and one in Mason. I still have them, thank God. I haven't become a millionaire. But there are people who, when the Pink Palace was being built by contractors, the contractor had to paint off his name from his equipment because he didn't want the country to know that he had the distinguished assignment of constructing for the Prime Minister, because they believe if you don't know, you can be taken advantage of. Last week when The Guardian published a story about EMBD where you lost $500 million in 1 month, the only issue they had with it is how that come out, how that story come out. That was the only issue they have, you know. Who leaked that? I think you know enough. Enough to know that on August 10th, come rain, come shine, you have a duty to come out to vote. And if you don't vote, young or old, especially if you're young and you don't vote, what you're saying, you don't care what happens. You don't care about your future. At least I could excuse the older ones because they have already got from this country much of what the country has to offer them. And you could lose that too. But the younger ones, you young people, especially those of you here in HORQUETTA, where you find yourself in this kind of neighborhood, where we have to build a future to take you out from here. You cannot participate in the luxury of not caring, or worse, that you have a dream like them and you somehow believe that we are the same. We are not the same. The PNM is in a class by itself where politics is concerned in this country. We are not the same. And I know that on August 10th, enough people in this country will take a stand in defense of Trinidad and Tobago and the people of Trinidad and Tobago and stay away from repeating what we have experienced before. And when they do that, enough of those votes will be cast for the PNM, will allow us to come out wherever we are on the night of Monday, August 10th, after we have voted everywhere across Trinidad and Tobago. We're going to vote in such a way that the PNM will come out and shout to this country, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and we shall prevail.
You can make your choice every time. Still not job to be